The Puck Portfolio with Andy MacNeil.
I'm always a little bit shocked when I see people like surprised on Twitter when the Maple Leafs lose as a big favorite, or even when they're when they struggle as a big favorite. Because like, are you new here? Have you been here before? Have you seen this team? This is a well documented, well known phenomena that the Maple Leafs play down to their opponents, and there's some pretty good evidence for that in my most recent betting insights article. There have been 36 games over the last two seasons, so dating back to the start of 2022-23, where the Maple Leafs had money line odds of minus 200 or greater, and they are 18 and 18 straight up since the beginning of last season in those games. So they should have won more than 70% of those games based on the odds, but they've won exactly 50% so far in 2023-24. The Leafs, they've been a big favorite minus 200 or greater a total of 5 times. They're 1-4 straight up in these situations where they're playing more like an underdog than they are a favorite. It's pretty crazy. So I'm not suggesting anybody straight fade the Maple Leafs or anything like that. And I'm also not suggesting that people don't bet on big favorites. If you feel like a big favorite is a value bet, then I guess you should make that bet. Moneyline favorites, specifically big favorites, they win often, but they don't win enough to make it worth to overcome the bookmakers juice. So looking at this season's odds, minus 200 or greater, they're 68 and 39 straight up. That's home and away so far this season. 63.6% win rate, but that's not good enough when we're talking about minus 200 odds, because the break even percentage, the implied probability, is 66.67% when you're talking about minus 200 odds. So that's what you've got to win in order to break even. You've got to win 67% plus of those bets to even think, get close to the point where you're going to be profitable betting minus 200. So like, I'd say, a good rule of thumb is, if, I had somebody last week, and I'm not picking on them. I know they're probably watching right now. I'm not picking on you or anybody else, but if you log into the sports book and you look at the odds and, look, I'm like, let's, the Florida Panthers, they're playing the St. Louis Blues tomorrow, minus 208 on the money line. They'll probably win. The model thinks they'll win 65.8% of the time, which equates to minus 193. So that's short of minus 208, right? Not even, it's not enough to say, oh, I'll bet the Blues, because they're only plus 170 or plus 190. And you'd need, at least 2-1 plus 205 to even start to consider betting on St. Louis. But when even if you're not making your own numbers, I act like an odds maker. I sit down every day, I make my own lines, my own odds for the game, and then I compare them to sports books. But even if you're just guessing more or less, or you're doing some research and you're deciding, hey, I'm going to bet this team or that team, write down the prices that you're hoping to get. Like, if you look at the Florida Panthers and the St. Louis Blues before you go to the sports book and look at the odds, maybe write down minus 190 and say, hey, if I get the Panthers at minus 190 or minus 185, I'll make that bet. Just to kind of hold yourself accountable, so that when you don't change your opinion and anchor it to the odds, because that's what a lot of people do. And I can tell you, a lot of people that are handicapping games out there in the public space for websites and TV shows and whatnot, making picks, they're anchoring things. They're looking at the board first, and then they're kind of saying, yeah, I can probably justify betting the Panthers on the puck line. Like, I don't want to lay minus 208, but I'll bet minus 1.5 for plus 102. That's not how to do it, right? If you're looking at a game and it's minus 208, and you're saying to yourself, I don't want to lay minus 208. That's too much chalk to lay. I don't like the juice, etc. The appropriate response is to just walk away from that game altogether, forget about it, survey the next one, see where the next value bet might be at, because it's your brain telling you that this is not a good bet. So, don't turn around and throw it into a parlay, especially when you're talking about a team like the Maple Leafs, who can't show up and who don't show up in these games seemingly. don't bet them on the puck line or on regulation or toss it into a parlay. I sure as hell don't want to hear you complain about it on Twitter. And that's what I was kind of fired me up when I saw people complaining that the Leafs were ruining their parlay down 5-0 to the Blue Jackets. Of course, they come back and forced overtime. They lost the game anyway, but um, you did it to yourself. You know that this team, constantly, regularly plays down to weaker opponents. So you think you're going to get an easy win by tossing them into a parlay. You're dead wrong, and you deserve it, right? So I mean, yeah, I don't know. Got to watch out on the big favorites. Look, we've shown it this season. I've given you the template, the blueprint of how you should be betting money lines, short favorites, the odd big favorite, sure, but short favorites and underdogs. And we're taking some big underdogs. Our average odds plus 107, plus 108, somewhere around there. It's, you know, we're betting mostly underdogs and we're still winning 56% of our bets. I see people out there, I read some articles, glance at some articles every day of some people making picks, and I see people every day, all they do is bet favorites. And if they like a big favorite and they don't want to lay the minus 200, the minus 180 kind of lines, they bet it in regulation. And there's such a level of arrogance to come out at 9:30, 10 o'clock on game day and say you can bet this game at minus 150 up to minus 170 or minus 110 up to minus 130. To think that they can analyze the odds and the stats and all of the things that we're looking at here better than everybody else and then some is crazy. So that's why I like to get out in front of everything. I know that, if you're going to bet an underdog, uh, people are smart. And if you look at how things move overnight, that plus 170 on the Flyers, that didn't stick around. So you got to get down early on the games that you really like. And just focus on that because there's not a lot of money in betting big favorites and tossing them in parlays and stuff like that. Just try to get down on the shorter favorites that you think have a good chance of winning, and the dogs that you think can pull off the upset. That's what we've done here on this show. Not a lot of flashy picks, a lot of ugly games. That's for sure. We're not necessarily zeroing in on the marquee games every other night. And there's a reason for that because the value is on a lot of the time on the games that not everybody is looking at.